This is Preaching Young Podcast.
Do you think they're sick of that voice yet?
I hope they are.
I'm Brittany Fornash. I'm the administrative assistant here at Trinity Southern Baptist Church.
Ouch.
I'm Andrew Baker, worship leader, youth leader here, Trinity Southern Baptist Church, Falmouth.
I'm Aben Crozier, pastor.
I just think you guys are so excited that I'm back.
Brittany is
Boy,
back.
am I ready.
First off, we need to apologize to our fans, our youngins.
Preaching youngins.
Preaching youngins. Because we missed a
All
week.
of our faithful members.
We missed a week and we apologize. We have, 2 weeks ago, Brittany wasn't even with us, so Brittany's been gone 2 weeks.
It's kind of nice.
So, I just
Nobody
can't
else heard
believe
that.
it.
No, go ahead.
But last week we had to take an absence because these two people were out of town getting the virus.
Yes, we were.
Just kidding, they don't have the virus.
Went to Florida.
They did go to Florida. They did go to the hot spot.
It was a very relaxing vacation though.
Well,
Something happened on this vacation too.
I heard a rumor.
Okay, go ahead.
I heard a rumor that y'all caught something.
Yeah.
A fish?
I did. I caught a ring on my finger.
She didn't get the
Show them the ring. Bling, bling, bling,
I'm so
bling.
excited.
I can't wait to meet your fiance. Who is he?
Oh, it's Andrew right here.
She met him in Florida.
Yeah, I caught him. Get
Well,
it?
explain the engagement. First off, how long did you know about the engagement, Andrew? Were you
How
surprised?
long did I know about it? Let me answer this first.
I want to hear the whole story. We have the
Start
first
to finish?
half. This first half is going to be all about you guys.
First half. Okay. Well, you see, how long have we been together?
Almost
Together.
6 years in December.
It's been a very long time.
Yeah.
So-
I know everybody's like, oh, they're Andrew's
So
just
young.
20.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how young I am, which I'm okay with because everybody else is going to turn 60 before me. So.
Listen, I'm pretty sure I proposed to. I was 20. I can't remember. I think we were talking about the other day. I think I was 21. I think we got married at 23.
See, I'll be 23 when I get married. There you go.
See, Brittany's older than me too, so I'm on a timeline here.
What do you mean? Are you saying I'm old?
Yeah, you are old. Anyway, so 6 years. That's a pretty long time. So I did some digging
In his pocket.
in my pocket, very deep into my pocket. And anyway, but no, the time was right, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make this thing happen. So what did I do? I did some homework. I had my sister investigate to see what Brittany liked, and she made a whole Pinterest board. Little did Brittany know, she's completely oblivious to all this while it's happening.
We were in our own little group text.
Oh yeah, we were. Me, Abram, and Sis. But Sis did homework outside of this thing on her own. She was like, listen, I'm gonna figure out what Brittany likes. So she figures out what Brittany's like. She sends me stuff, and a week or two went by, and then I'm like, all right, we're going on vacation to Florida. It's
You
happening.
missed a lot in that time.
What did I miss?
Well, I feel like I should get a little bit of credit in there.
Abram's
Oh
sure
yeah,
did a lot of
I
credit
forgot
because
about that.
he got my
I
ring
forgot about that.
size.
Well, I wasn't there, so I don't.
That was like
didn't
6 months ago
experience
too, so I didn't even think about it.
that. Well,
I know.
that's
I don't
how
know
long
many
ago
months
that.
ago it was.
It was a
but-
while.
Yeah.
Well, let me back up here. Let's back up for a minute. Brittany
Brittany
always said, every single
always.
week would say, are you going to
When are you gonna
propose? When are you going to propose? When are you going to
Well,
propose?
if we're getting married,
I never said when are you going to propose.
if we got married, we wouldn't have this
Everybody,
deal.
listen, every time I walk into this church building, everybody asks Brittany, so when are you and Andrew getting married?
That's
or,
why y'all got
hey,
married?
where's
Yeah,
your
pretty much.
husband?
That's why you got married?
No, but they always are asking me, and I'm like, why don't you guys just go ask Andrew?
Yeah, no.
Like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't get on one knee and propose.
All right, so we would be walking down the,
Back up here.
we'd be walking through the church, and all of a sudden, may be true, but we'd always hear, ask Andrew when he's gonna marry me.
That's it.
Yeah, because everybody kept saying, Brittany, when are you and Andrew going to get married? I'm
I
like,
don't know.
well,
Ask
guys,
Andrew.
why
Ask
don't you ask
Andrew.
Andrew?
Andrew, when are you gonna marry me?
I never said that.
And then she started. Here's
It sounded just like that.
here's where we really started.
Well,
to
I started
feel
talking
the
to-
pressure
I-
because she started to sing songs that were
gosh.
marriage songs.
Like what?
If you like it, then instead of put a ring on it. And then
Every
you'd be
week.
like,
That's
you know,
because
"You
Becca
gonna
always
marry
said-
me.
Nobody knows who Becca is. It's just a family friend.
Just a family
Yeah,
friend,
explain
they'd go,
that.
Andrew, when are you going to
Podcast,
put a
yeah.
ring on it? And she started singing it, so it's just funny.
Okay.
Andrew was not pressured into this, I don't think.
No, I don't think
Were
so.
you?
I hope not.
Okay, good. I was going to say, now I feel bad.
Anyway, what happened? Oh, what? Well, I wasn't at this
So we were
occurrence.
trying to figure out, because my thing, I told Andrew, I said, Andrew, do you even know the ring size? How can you get a ring? Because Andrew wanted to get a ring. I said, can you get a ring if you don't know the ring size? Andrew's thing was, I don't know.
I don't know how to do it. Well, here's the thing.
And we should talk about all the stuff.
We should. My biggest predicament was we should.
We were gonna put a rubber band around her finger and then
Listen,
like hold it.
Hold on,
until we
on my
could measure
keychain.
it.
On my keychain, I've got a lot of these little. I had extra
remember
ones.
this.
I had
You put it
extra
on my
ones.
finger.
And I had
Like a
extra
month ago.
little itty bitty ones that you get when you go to like the oil change. They take your keys or something. They
Yeah,
put a little
yeah,
tag on
yeah.
it, and they've got like a little metal ring. And I took like 3 of those. We had a very interesting. They were all genius ideas.
I ended up just Amazoning
None of them worked.
a ring measure thing and
Yeah, you should probably pay him for that, Andrew.
I asked him. He said no.
$7.
He said he'd keep it.
You guys have paid my dinners enough. Make it made up for it.
Anyway, explain this. Go ahead. Paid this $7 on Amazon.
Yeah, so we bought it's just a bunch of rings.
Just a big ring.
I don't remember how
Bunch of
I
ring
went in
sizes.
there. It was really awkward because Brittany's an awkward person. I said you should check out. You should see. I don't remember what I said, but it had something to do with you should see what ring size you are.
Which
And,
in my head, I'm like, why?
she was a nervous wreck. Started getting real laughy.
Yeah,
Hands
I
are
laugh
shaking.
when I'm nervous.
Hands are shaking. Anyway,
We actually did a podcast right after that.
there we did.
And I'm pretty sure I was
remember
happy
what
that day
episode it was,
too, probably.
Yeah. You,
And I had to play it off like I had no idea what just happened, even though Abram told me what happened. So.
Wait, you did? You
Oh
knew?
yeah, I knew the whole time. I knew it was happening.
It was his
It
idea.
was my idea.
I was just the.
Abram was just.
I was just the.
Abram just did it
puppet
once.
master.
Yeah, he just did it once.
Ridiculous.
There's a lot of work that went
There's a
into
lot.
this.
Come to find
Brittany
out, there's a
has
lot.
zilch ideas.
There's a lot that went into this whole thing.
Well,
And
here,
even on
keep going,
vacation,
keep
there's a
going.
lot
Well,
that happened.
Did you know that he almost proposed at Gatlinburg?
Yeah,
I don't know how
almost
to tell her
did.
this.
Really?
You can, yeah, I almost did.
Almost did.
Almost
What?
made it happen.
At
Well,
the island.
it almost happened.
Wait, did you have the ring then?
No, this
Yeah.
was the issue. He didn't
That
have
was
the
the
ring.
No, this was, yeah, that was, well, the Friday before, Abram's like, because we were going to Gatlinburg, it was
That's
to go to the pop-up trip, remember?
Yeah.
Pretty much, it was very last
Little
minute for us to go.
weekend trip.
And Abram goes,
This is the one.
Abram
This
goes,
is a good one.
Abram goes, are you doing it? Is this it? Is it happening this weekend? I was like, no. This is a Friday morning, we're having this conversation. We leave on Monday, I
Yeah.
think.
It would have been too quick.
I mean, I could have pulled it off, but 2 days to do all that, that would have been intense.
It would have
So,
This
it would have been really
proposal
cool
was
though.
amazing,
It would have been
though.
cool. It would have been very neat.
Andrew texted me like, man, we were at the island. It was just us two. Nobody else was there. I should have done it then. Should have done it with
Would
the
have been
music.
perfect,
And
huh? See, you're welcome. She didn't think about this stuff,
Yeah.
does she?
No, I didn't.
This has been Andrew's mind for months.
It has been.
That's all he's been thinking about. It's been funny because you had no idea and you were still saying, Andrew.
And it kills me because I usually
I
tell.
did not!
It kills me though because me and Brittany talk about everything together.
Yeah.
Usually. So the one thing I can't tell her now is the only thing that I'm thinking about.
And he had to share it with his pastor.
I had to share it with the pastor.
So I'm excited.
Thank
You all have a
you.
date yet?
What happened?
You have like
No, we
a
don't.
time
We
frame
missed
or-
the rest of the story.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh yeah. So then
We
you're.
need to speed this up a little bit.
No, we
Yeah, we're
don't.
doing
Dave
okay.
Fornash comes involved in this too.
Oh, this is funny
This
actually.
is a funny story.
Because
So-
I don't think anything of it because my dad and
Wait, what happened?
Andrew
I don't
are
know
both
what
tight. They're
Brittany,
both
you
tight.
Yes,
gotta-
they are
you
both
gotta-
tight.
you gotta jump
So there
here.
you
They have a good relationship. But
I have a good relationship with their dad, yes. So, me, being as slick as I am, I give Dave a call. Now, this is, we leave for vacation. This is the week before we leave for vacation, okay? Actually, let's see. I worked, so technically 2 weeks before. So I call Dave up and I say, hey, Dave, let's go to lunch. This was like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, hey, what are you doing Saturday? He's like, nothing. I was like, you gonna get lunch? He's like, sure. He was like, Chipotle at 11. I said, sure, sounds good.
Police
Hang up the
officer.
phone.
Yeah.
So, meet at 11, and come to find out a little bit later, Dave's like, I knew that something was up when you asked me to go out to lunch, which is weird because
You guys
we
always go out to
breakfast or
lunch, so I
all
didn't
the time
think
anyway.
anything.
Okay, so, you're going to have to help me out here.
Okay.
Because that was a long day for me. It was a very busy day.
He kept.
So we meet Dave at 11. I meet Dave at 11 at Chipotle. Well, he gets on a call, okay? So my plan's ruined, right? I'm planning to have a conversation with Dave at
Had to
lunch.
leave.
And Dave has to leave. He gets on a call. He's a cop, like Abram said. So what does Andrew do? I panic, right? Because I don't know what to do. So I leave. I'm like, should I go to Brent's house? She's right down the road from Chipotle. So I said, no, forget it. I'm going to Jared. So I went straight to Jared. straight after I left Chipotle. I was there for about an hour and a half, quick and painless. Shout out to Jared.
Shout out to Jared if
We
you want
can
to sponsor.
I'd love to. I'd love to have Jared sponsor. They were easy, very.
But he did. He went to Jared.
I did. That's a commercial.
I
That's how
know.
he said it.
I know.
Anyway, so yeah, I went to Jared, got it all taken care of. I tell Brittany I'm washing my car, which is believable because I do that quite often. And then out of nowhere, I just show up at her house.
And I was like,
An
oh,
hour and a
you
half later,
surprised
I
me.
show up and I'm like, she didn't know where I was the entire time. She didn't ask, so I just play it off. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. I was just in the area, you know. So I had the ring in my car, or it wasn't in my car. I didn't take it with me because they were sizing it and all that stuff. So anyway, what happens next?
Dave?
What did you do? You were doing something that night.
Oh, I was going out with my friend and her mom and my mom.
Right, so this is where Andrew's ingenious idea comes back into play. Brittany's like, I don't really know if I want to go out to eat with them. I'm like, she's like, I don't know if I want to. Penny, her mom, was like, I don't think we need to go out. I'm not really hungry. I'm like, no, you guys need to go out. Like, you and Penny need to go, like, leave and get out of the house. So after a little bit of convincing, they leave.
And you stayed?
And I stayed,
And
which
but
isn't
I
abnormal.
was literally
That's
like,
not abnormal.
no, it's not. He was with my dad, so I was like, oh, he'll be leaving soon. That's what I thought.
And then while they're gone, have a conversation with Dave. Perfect. Night goes great.
Did he approve?
He approved.
Were you nervous?
I wasn't nervous.
Were you
You can ask Dave.
like
Have him call into the show.
scared? Oh yeah.
I wasn't nervous. No, Dave's a cool guy. So anyway, that happens. They call me. They say, "Oh, it's going to be ready Tuesday." So I worked that week. So I was like, "Okay, I'll pick up the ring when I get back from work." They called me that day and said, "Nope, it's actually ready today." So I tell Dave that. Okay, Monday rolls around. Keep in mind, you don't have no idea any of this is happening. Monday rolls around.
Yeah.
And I show up to Brittany's house. Now, well, I usually go over there on Mondays anyway. So I show up. Dave knows that we're going on Monday. He's like, because I had to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Dave's like, okay, we're going Monday to pick this sucker up. Okay? So Dave has in his head now, we have to get away from the girls. He's like, don't worry, I'll get you away. I was like, okay, cool. You got it, Dave.
I'll take this away.
Here's where it comes in handy. This is what happens. Okay, you guys go to her aunt's house quite often, get their nails done because she does nails for them. And
You guys have a weird.
yes, we do. Weird family.
Very weird dynamic.
Which her aunt's not actually.
You leave
it's
Andrew
her
by
cousin.
himself often?
No, actually, it worked out perfectly.
He always wants to hang out with my dad.
Genius, right? Really worked this out.
We're
So
gonna
anyway,
go camping with him too here in a little bit.
September 7th.
Yeah, don't.
Guys,
buy.
true.
I'm really scared you're gonna like get eaten by a bear or something.
So anyway.
we'll talk about that later.
Anyway,
Well.
what happens next? Oh, Dave's like, why don't you and Penny go to her aunt's house? So they go to her aunt's house, and while they're gone for like what, an hour and a half?
Great idea, Dad.
Yeah.
It was. Well, I think they were planning on going anyway.
Great
We
idea.
were.
So,
my
so
cousin
my
was in
thing
town.
is, I usually go with them to her aunt's house because I like
And I
her
was
aunt.
like, why don't you want
And
to go?
this time I said, no, I don't really want to go, which
I
was
was like-
awkward. That was a very awkward thing because I usually would go. And
My
shout
aunt
out,
loves Andrew.
shout out Aunt Tammy. She really had a part in this and didn't know it. She distracted the girls. So anyway, me and Dave go to Jared,
So did her cousin.
pick up the ring, and then I just held on to it until we got to Florida.
Well, you didn't hold on to
Well,
it.
no, I did the whole time. Then I gave it to Dave in the airport.
Because he was scared the ring thing.
Yeah, flash
was-
forward to the airport. So we get to the airport, and I have it the entire time, and I'm telling Dave, listen, I don't want to have any chances that this thing goes off or they randomly search my bag and Brittany's standing right next to me and they pull out a ring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was nervous, right?
Did they do pretty well with
Who?
COVID in the airport?
Not everybody had
It's
masks
the
on.
same.
Same as before, it's
Just
out
a
of mask.
mask.
So anyway, I'm freaking out. So when we first get to the airport, I say, Dave's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I'm like, yeah, me too.
And I thought it was weird that you guys went together because boys usually don't go to the restroom together. Girls travel in packs.
So we really
They
thought this
do.
through. We get to the bathroom, boom, 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 exchange the magical item.
I'm surprised y'all didn't get arrested.
People, there was someone in the stall, and Dave's like, "Do you want me to give it to you when we get back out on the other side?" I was like,
Yeah, they probably think.
they probably think we're talking security or we're trying to smuggle
smuggling.
something. Now looking back, that probably wasn't a good idea. But we made it through.
Smuggling diamonds.
We get to the, we stayed in an Airbnb in Florida. We get to the Airbnb. I have Dave's backpack on, which Brittany didn't notice anything of. So I sneak into the room.
Oblivious.
I switch it out into my bag. Boom. Never touch it until the event.
And how'd the event go?
Brittany, I'll let you explain this one.
All right.
I want to hear your
so,
perspective. I'm doing too much talking over here.
First off, are you shocked by any of this?
Yeah, I was really shocked. Like we've talked about it. Me and Andrew's talked about like you know,
For
getting
years.
engaged, getting married, all the stuff. Because I mean, we're both Christians. We both like recognize like marriage is like a high. I don't know. We both want that. We hold that at a high standard. So we always talked about it. But we get there and we planned all week that we're gonna do family pictures on
Which that was
Thursday.
Dave's idea. So
No,
Dave
that
knew
was
this.
me and my mom planned that a long time before.
Oh, okay, I thought it was Dave.
And so I knew we were doing family pictures, so my mom wanted to do all white. So we were all in white. And then Andrew's like, oh, I forgot a white shirt. Which he had white in his shirt a little bit.
I really didn't have a white shirt. And I wasn't going to buy one.
So we were like, okay, Andrew, whatever. Like, don't wear a white
I wore a
shirt.
semi-white shirt. It was
Kinda.
a baseball tee with gray sleeves.
Yeah, it worked out great. It was a great shirt. But we took one picture, and then all of a sudden, my dad's like telling my brother to walk towards the sunlight and like getting a picture of him and his wife, and then my mom, and then he was like, Brittany,
Okay,
your
pause,
turn,
pause.
go.
So, Dave knew we were going to do family pictures, right? So we're on the beach, we're taking pictures of everybody. I told Dave, which, by the way, we took what did I propose on Wednesday?
Yeah, well, this has been 15 minutes of us talking about this.
I know, right?
Why does it bother you?
We organized
It's a long
this,
time.
me and Dave organized this in like 30 seconds on Tuesday. Dave's like, how are you going to do it? I was because I had no idea how I was going to do it. I was just going to feel it out and be like, okay, now's the right, you know what I'm saying? I was just going to feel it out.
Yeah.
So Dave's like, how do you want to do it? He was like, we're getting pictures tomorrow. I was like, yeah, genius. He's like, you know what? I'll make her walk towards the sunset. And it worked identically to how we planned it. Dave's like, I'll have her walk, or I'll have her stand facing the sunset or something, and you walk up behind her and take a picture. And I was like, yeah. And then I'll just take a video. You just take a video instead of a picture, and then
I'm surprised he didn't mess that up.
He didn't. It
No,
was
we
really
didn't.
impressive.
But
on Dave's
literally, so what happened was I was like, oh, well, Andrew can come walk towards the sunset with me. My dad was like, no, I just want one of my daughter, like just being my dad, being
Which is not-
funny.
none of this is abnormal.
No, it's just, that's how my family is. But,
Right.
so I walk in and I'm walking like a little thing, like a little crazy step, because I was like, whatever, like, I'll do this.
Awkward.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, I turn around, because my dad says turn around, and I was going to strike a pose. And there it was Andrew, on one knee. And when I get excited, all I do is laugh and smile.
Turn around.
Oh my
Yeah, that's a left hand.
So I was like, this.
And then Andrew put the ring on the wrong finger.
Yes, and I was counting. I was like, I think it's the wrong finger, but I couldn't get it out.
But she also had her hand, her right
It was
hand
my
out.
left.
I
She
know,
held
it's
her
like
hand out.
this. It was really funny, but
That is
It was
hilarious.
it was
awesome.
great.
I'm
But that's
excited.
it. It was really
It was,
exciting.
it was a good experience, you know.
Thanks to everybody that was involved. Shout out to you all.
You did say the preaching youngins that if the engagement should happen on this podcast, but
I would have liked to have seen that. That would have been kind of cool. That was one of our options. My option.
propose on the podcast.
Propose on the
It's not really
podcast.
romantic.
We had a
Yeah.
camera. We had audience. So
Barely.
Yeah, but we're looking at a venue this next
Next time.
week, and then
That's
we're
our
hoping
engagement in a
for
nutshell.
next fall,
that's
so
awesome.
2021.
October.
Outside, huh?
No, not
No,
outside. Brittany doesn't want
goodness
it outside.
gracious.
Thank you.
There's too much.
Sweating.
There's too much.
I sweat too much for that.
Me too.
There's too much risk factor in an outdoor wedding. You know?
Yeah, could rain,
Rain,
could
could be
storm,
hot, could be cold.
snow.
Bugs.
2020 with everything going on. Oh my goodness.
We
But
kept
yeah.
it. We kept it under 20 minutes. That's impressive.
Was the Florida as crazy as they say it was?
No.
No,
Beaches filled with tons of people?
No.
And going nuts and crazy?
no,
That's interesting. I'm glad y'all are back.
we're safe. I will say, just for people that are worried out there, everywhere we went out in public, into a restaurant, which we only went to 3, we had a mask on. So
I'm glad. Thank you for that. Shout out to Megan and Colton for taking over the youth over on
Oh,
Wednesday.
yes.
Yes, they did.
And for a cake, I mean.
They got
nice
some
cake.
Yeah, they got a cake this Wednesday, celebrating it. But I always tell people one of the biggest worry that I always have is making sure that we have people that can fill in whenever anybody's absent, right?
Yeah.
Because at any moment, especially in church life, any moment somebody can leave and get mad and leave, or vice versa, or just go on
Easy.
vacation. So it's always good to make sure you're always preparing for that next person to be able to take over. And Megan Colton did a great job with that last Wednesday.
shout out.
Let me tell you something. We had an amazing last weekend after they came back home. Because Sunday we had a special guest come to our church in Falmouth, Kentucky.
Blake Whiteley.
Whiteley.
He was amazing.
Glory gang, glory gang, glory
Gang. Sorry, stole your thunder.
So I was excited. I mean, Blake Whiteley is.
He's probably one of the coolest people I've ever met.
It was, well, first off, they had bus problems coming down. They were stuck in traffic for a little bit, so we were a little bit worried about all the things that were going on and making sure they were coming here. But once they got here in a truck and a trailer, and they were still calm, collected, and laid back, excited, pumped about the night. And I'm like, listen, we may not have very many kids here tonight, so, I'm not for sure what to expect. He's like, yeah, we don't really care. We're going to have a good time. 1 or 2 or more. We're going to have a good time. So I was excited. What was your favorite thing about the concert? We had a 4:00 event with a bunch of youth. We had a pretty good group.
We had a good crowd, yeah.
I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah. I think the issue that we get into here where we're located, being a small town, is like on Wednesdays we run a bus. Sunday we didn't run a bus. But we really had a great crowd.
Yep.
And the crowd that we did bring in was different because not everybody likes rap. Not everybody is into it.
Which shout out to Blake.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
he
he did
got
a great
everybody on their feet
Blake,
jumping.
Listen, I've gone to a lot of rap concerts because that's my thing. Christian rap concerts. Let me specify. I don't really go to those rap concerts that are secular. It's scary. But I've been to a lot of Grits, John Rubin.
I don't really think
Have you
Grits
actually
is
ever
rap.
been to one of those concerts?
Grits is more of a hip hop.
Or are you just lying?
And they're kind of
Been to them. I've seen Grits three times.
They're
Oh,
outdated.
okay.
John Rubin once. We actually played with John Rubin. John Rubin has the softest hands of anybody I've ever met in my life.
That is
I shook his
very
hand. It was like
weird.
baby.
That
it was
is
like
weird.
a baby's hand. And I'm like,
I
wow,
probably
John.
wouldn't.
It's a weird observation.
I would
say
never have
that out
noticed that in
loud.
my entire life. I shake hands all the time with people. It was the one time, and I'll never forget it. It was the softest hands I've ever felt.
Interesting.
Thank you for sharing.
But like if we went to Winter Jam, you would have seen like Christian hip hop, Christian.
Oh yeah, that's stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because from where we're at, which is only like 25 minutes away, where we grew up, we have a lot of concerts. We've seen a lot of concerts, but a lot of kids here that's in our youth, they never
We don't get to
have
see
seen a
it in
concert.
Falmouth. Yeah, nobody comes
Never.
to Falmouth.
Well, because we're like 15 minutes from Cincinnati, so Winter Jam's easy to go to.
And not only that, but in Falmouth, if there are concerts, it's going to be geared towards old people, gospel concerts,
Old gospel,
country gospel,
bluegrass,
yes. And so there's really very little for the youth. And I'm going to tell you right now, the CDC director just came out this week and actually said this, that overdoses and suicides have now jumped over the death rate of COVID. So there's more kids that have died from suicides and overdoses than have died from the virus altogether. And so that's the pandemic, if you want to.
Yeah.
What did Blake call it? Scamdemic?
He called it a scamdemic.
So but honestly, our kids are dealing with a lot of mental issues right now. We're seeing it all over the place, and just to be able to get them together and watch them, be
It
able
was
to
the
just
coolest
jump
thing ever.
around.
Yeah.
And Blake would call them out and talk to
Yeah.
them right there on the stage.
It was really
Blake would
cool.
sit there. We had a lot of older people who were standing up, and Blake would run to the very back and dance with them for half a second. It was amazing. It was awesome.
If you're
It was
looking
all
for
over
a
the place.
good
Yes.
concert, if you're looking for a good concert, and
Great to work with.
oh yeah,
Reasonably
nice
priced.
guy. Oh yeah,
Great music. The
Highly
music was
recommend.
awesome. I don't listen to tons of music all the time, right? I have my own little genre that I like to listen to, but I knew about 4 or 5 of his songs. Played every one of them. I was pumped,
Yeah,
man.
he was really good.
I was
And
so
you could
pumped.
understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
I just love
Well,
it.
and thank you for saying that. Plus, he preached the gospel.
Yeah.
absolutely.
He took time and actually preached the gospel and said, "Look, this isn't about the music. This is all about giving God the glory." It was amazing. Glory gang, baby.
Oh yeah.
Hashtag glory
I'm
gang.
telling you, he was one of the coolest people I've ever met, probably, and he was definitely one of the coolest concerts I've ever been in,
Yes.
for sure.
And the kids
Oh, the
love
kids love
him.
it. They're still talking about it to this day, and it's been over a week. So
Yeah. Shout out to Brett, his manager, for working
Oh,
with
yes.
us. That was awesome.
Brett's a good guy.
Good friend.
Whatever.
Here we go.
They were all nice people.
Y'all may see me out on tour with Mr. Blake Whiteley. I don't know.
He actually did say it.
It may
his
happen.
manager Brett, he definitely said Abram.
I don't think they can
Well,
afford me,
oh,
but it may happen.
LOL.
But definitely recommend.
Yeah,
It's a good concert.
seriously.
It's an easy concert because he brings everything. They
Music-
bring
people don't-
sound. They bring
People don't realize, well, that's,
sound, lights.
have we talked about this
fun.
before? It's such an easy
No, we
process.
should. But we should.
It's an easy process, right? If you make an agreement with the band and say, look, if you bring all your stuff, we'll provide the actual stage.
It will cost a little bit more typically.
We'll
for them
bring
to
the
bring
stage,
sound.
and we'll bring the stage, and we'll bring the people. Like we'll give you the building, the people. Like the rest, they can handle. It's amazing. They come in, they set everything up. You don't have to do anything. You just have to really just be available for them if they need anything. But
They're
it's
professionals. They do it really
yes,
well.
it's an easy thing to do, and everybody benefits from it. Our young people benefit, our old people. We had old people who were saying, man, not only were they encouraged themselves just by the music, but they were sitting there going, it was so encouraging to be able to see our young people get into just having fun again.
Yeah.
This virus has taken a lot of that away from our young people.
It was cool.
And so it
They're
was
still
awesome
talking
to
about it,
see.
I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
it's
They're
so
still
cool
talking
to
about
see.
it. Yeah.
How long have we been running church? Two months live?
Yeah.
A little over.
Probably
Yeah.
2 months. Yeah.
And so we're trying to participate in everything they're saying, but here's the thing. We got to get back to church, right? We got to get back to our youth group. We have all of our churches around us, a lot of them up north, they are not having children's stuff. They're not having anything for children. They're having youth group because they're nervous about the virus. But I'm like, that's the kids this is the time that we need to be ministering to these people.
They didn't know. They didn't.
And let me put this into.
Because they have questions, they have concerns, they're anxious,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
depressed. This is the time that this is the greatest time for us to sit there and go, we have the answer. We have the hope for tomorrow, strength for
And
the day.
something I noticed just in the group that we have is they just look down. Everything's changing in their lives. School's not happening.
Yep.
All this stuff is changing, and they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And this is
We
a
don't either.
pivotal
Adults
time.
don't
True,
either.
that's
Right.
a very true statement. But this is a pivotal time for the church to make a huge,
Yes.
what's it called? Like
Effort.
a effort to impact our youth. And this is where they're going to find their hope, not in stuff outside of the world like everyone says you should, but here at a church.
Yeah.
Well, for the longest
Here's the
time,
gospel.
for the longest time, as churches, we've been saying that forever. Like we've been saying like where to put your hope in, who to put your faith in, and then when something comes up, we
The church
kind
is
of
the one
forget
that
it.
doesn't do it.
Yeah, and
That's what's been
I
astonishing
think
to me.
I think we have to get to that point.
I think
again.
part of it is because we think we treat Jesus like a drug. We think that we can get a quick buzz from him. He can give us, get us through a situation where stressed. We can go pray to God and it's everything good. Jesus is a lifestyle. Jesus is supposed to be a part of us. We're supposed to, every day, we should be more like Jesus. And it's not just a buzz that we get on Sundays and then go on throughout our week. This has to be our daily commitment, a daily life that we have to continue to do. And unfortunately, the church has failed in the past. And I always share with 9/11 because 9/11 the churches were filled with people asking questions, saying, the world's ending. We thought the world was ending because there was a world war coming at us. And people were like, this is the end. And so people came to church saying, I need answers. And I always tell people, and I was telling people way before I even knew this virus was even existed, that there was going to be another moment where God was going to bring us to our knees again as a nation, and people were going to start flooding into the church. I even said this at Main Street. I don't know if you all remember.
Yeah.
We need to be ready for when God floods our churches with people. I used to say that. He's going to flood it. There's going to be another revival. He's going to flood our churches. And how we react it's got to be different than what we did in the past. Because in the past,
They came and gone.
this is when the praise and worship started coming into our churches, and we said, oh, wow, it must be the praise and worship that got them in here. It must have been our dark lights, and it looks like a concert. People literally thought that's what brought people in. No, it wasn't that. It was the fact that they thought the world was ending, and they needed answers, and we didn't give it to them because we thought it was in our praise and worship or in our concert series or in our fun-loving, all these different things. It wasn't any of those things. Or in the teaching style. This is when the teaching style really got real big. Like you got to teach it instead of preach it. Like everybody thought that's what got them in. That didn't do it. And you can see it right now because the praise and worship type of worship services are dwindling. The teaching style of preaching, people are losing it because guess what? No one really cares what the Hebrew word is for half the stuff in the Bible. It doesn't matter. That's why they translated it in the beginning, so we don't have to worry about the Hebrew translation. So there's all that stuff. But listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have a breaking news story that nobody's talking about, nobody's addressing, and we want to discuss it. Listen,
It's going to go viral.
I have one mission on this podcast, which is just to be open and honest with our listeners, right? And so today we're going to be very open and honest. We're going to talk about something that's very controversial, something that nobody's talking about, something that I disagree with inside the church. It's probably the biggest scandal in America's churches today. The biggest scandal. And we're about to blow it up and talk about it. And we're going to make some people upset, I'm sure. But here's the reality. God has called us to give him the glory. And it's time that the churches start acting like it. So open up your churches on Sunday night and Wednesday night. I'll say this too before we go on this little break.
You should. This is good.
Sunday night, Wednesday night, no one's at our church, right? Because it's always been lower numbers.
Pre-pandemic.
Now, pre-pandemic. So why in the world, if people are nervous about the virus, why wouldn't you open the church up on Sunday night and Wednesday night? We have all these pastors who are still doing their little video thing, right, with their camera up, looking real close to it on their, and it's up their nose, and they're trying to do a lesson on the video. Get off of the video. Open up the churches. We are supposed to be fellowship. So put on a mask, put on a hazmat suit, put on a goggle, and start having church again. We will not close the door again. I don't care if this virus goes up even worse than it was in March. We're not closing our doors. Doors will never be closed again. I make that promise right here on this podcast.
Amen to that one.
We'll check in a little bit.
Let's take a quick break.
Preaching Young. All right, we're back with our second half of our podcast of Preaching Young, and we apologize again for all those that missed us last week. We got a bunch of emails. Y'all don't ever email us questions. We can finally email us, complain that we weren't on. So we got those. We received it.
I'd rather have that though.
And we took it to heart. So
Good.
thanks for breaking my heart.
Yeah,
I went to the doctor on Monday, and they said because I'm having a lot of back pain, and so I'm like,
You're only
"Doctor."
32.
I know.
You're old.
31.
31. My bad.
I said, "Doctor, what's wrong with my back?" He said, "Abram, you tell that church of yours to get off of it."
You didn't say that. That was a terrible joke.
No, just kidding. He said it's really weak because you've been sitting in a van for 2 years, and so.
Does that mean I'm gonna be that way in a couple years?
He said do back exercises and strengthen it back up, brother. So there's that. But other than that, everything's fine. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful.
You've had a good week, haven't you?
Had a wonderful week.
If you're not watching us on April Course Ministries,
It's been a week of, I'm telling you, people are dealing with a lot of stuff, and for some reason, I'm having to deal with it with them. So it's been an interesting week. But so be in prayer for your pastor. But don't be a pastor if any of you pastors. All right, I'm
go ahead and say it.
all
Just
right.
say it. The elephant's out of the bag now.
My target audience
That's
is
okay.
when I think of my target audience, I think of a lot of young people who are going into ministry or they're in ministry and they're wanting to hear advice from us youngins who are in the middle of it too, right? So,
With you. We're
so
with
this
you.
is geared towards that young pastor who's trying to make it in ministry. If you're a young pastor, do not make the mistake of sharing articles complaining about, woe is me, I'm a pastor. This is all every pastor shares the pray for your pastor article. It's like, dude, if you really need prayer as a pastor, then you need to actually find an accountability partner, somebody that you can pray with, and not just try to get your Facebook friends to like and
Feel
share
bad
an
for you.
article or feel bad for you. It doesn't work that way, you know.
I think sometimes when the pastors do that anyway, it's kind of like, for their congregation to see that, it's kind of like oh, well, they're going through a lot too. Like, I don't need to talk to them about what I'm going through. I think it pushes the fact of like,
I didn't think
well,
about it that
why
way.
would I go up to them and burden them even more? I don't know. That's just how I look at that stuff. But you know.
I will say that we are not Catholics, so you don't have to go to the priest
Ooh, wow.
and have your sins forgiven.
Oh, amen to that.
Go right to God.
Bypass the men. Pastor.
But yeah, I agree. Agree with all the above. Listen,
Glad you got that off your chest.
me too. And now that we've already upset a bunch of pastors, we're gonna upset you even more. I should have looked into this before I got over here. There was an article by Newsweek. It says this: religious organizations receive $7.3 billion in PPP loans. Mega churches amass millions.
Say that again.
Are you serious? I read it real slow.
No, I just wanted to get the emphasis,
Religious
you know.
organizations across the U.S. have received at least $7.3 million in federal rescue package loans, with evangelical leaders tied to President Trump megachurches. This was probably more of a slam at Trump, but that article was. But here's something that we want to talk about. When the virus first came in March and started, we started talking about, all right, churches may have to start closing. I was sitting in Zoom. I was doing maybe 3 Zoom calls a week where people were saying, all right, here's what this is going to look like if church is closed. Here's how we're going to handle this. Here, if you need anything, here's what you need to go to. We're going to have pastor things where we're going to encourage each other every week. I was in all these Zoom calls over and over again. Zoom call, Zoom call, Zoom call. Forgetting to turn off the mute button. Zoom call, everybody over talking to each other, Zoom call, Zoom call. I couldn't get a word in edgewise, but everybody was trying to give their own opinion and advice, and nobody was listening to mine. So I was very upset with these stupid Zoom calls, and it was just over. And I ended up a month later saying, I'm no longer doing another Zoom call for the rest of my life, and I have stuck to that. I haven't been on a Zoom call since April or something stupid, because I refuse to do Zoom calls. I hate Zoom calls. They're the dumbest thing in the world. I don't care how far we get into our technological society. I will never do another Zoom call to save my life. Zoom stinks. Anybody else? Have you ever done a Zoom call?
Ever
Yeah, I
have
hated
done
The worst thing in the entire world. I promise you.
I've seen plenty of people fail at Zoom calls before, but I've never
The
participated
worst.
in a Zoom call.
Cameras up people's noses and seeing people's nasty houses that are dirty. I don't want nothing to do with Zoom calls, man. So there's that. Man, I'm off to a bad start to this. But I'll tell you what started happening, right? As soon as they started talking about churches closed, this was in March. Every single topic. I don't care if the topic of the Zoom call was on evangelism, or the topic of the Zoom call was on live streaming, or the topic of the Zoom call was on social media. Every Zoom call I went to, the topic always changed or shifted to the stimulus package, the relief that the government was going to give churches, because churches were not going to survive. Big churches with daycares were saying, I'm not going to be able to survive with our, if we close our daycare, we're not going to be able to survive financially. Little churches saying, it's only my own salary and they're barely paying me my own salary. I can't get a raise to save my life. I need extra money from the government. Medium-sized churches that were saying, we're doing pretty decent, but just in case, we better get this package. And people were calling their lawyers and their accountants, and they were all trying to get this federal money from our government. Now, here's the interesting part, and here's why most people were doing it. Because the federal government, and I don't even know if this is in this article or not, but I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody what it is. It was a forgiveness loan, right? Meaning, if you kept, this is how they told us. I'm just telling you what they told me. If you keep the same amount of staff members from this summer to the next summer, in a full year, if you keep the same amount of staff members, right, then that loan that the government's giving us is going to be forgiven. You don't have to pay it back. And so this is what really spurred a lot of churches to get this, because they're like, oh my goodness, we're going to get free money. It's going to help us survive as a church. And then we don't have to pay it back next summer. We don't have to pay it back as long as I keep the same amount. So if I have it's just the pastor, it's the salary guy. As long as there's one pastor preaching next year, we're good. If it's, if we have 4 people as staff, as long as we keep 4 staff members by next year, we're good. It would all be forgiven.
Sounds good, huh?
Sounds wonderful. Sounds beautiful. Now, Abram Crozier had an issue. Now, could I explain the issue to people? No, I couldn't explain the issue to people. You know why I couldn't explain the issue to people? Because they wouldn't listen to me on those stupid Zoom calls. They all were doing all the talking, and I couldn't get there's no raise hand button on there.
There should be.
Should be. Well, there might be. I couldn't find it. And so I was having trouble getting my voice heard. But my thing was, I had studied the life of Hudson Taylor. If you don't know who Hudson Taylor is a missionary who went over to China, who never asked for money. They had tons of look him up. There's a wonderful history lesson for any Christian who wants to learn about running a mission, right? Never asked for money. He had all these missionaries that they brought into China. They changed all these things. They're still there 100 years later, but he never asked for money. But he never had to, right? God provided every single time. And so for me in March, I was sitting there going, well, hold on. Our finances haven't changed yet.
We weren't seen an impact.
Yeah, we didn't. I don't know how the church is going to respond to this. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm not going to sit there and get a loan from the government when I'm not for sure that I'm even going to need it. Right? I'm going to put my faith. This is what really I ended up saying. I'm going to put my faith in God and believe that He's going to carry us through this pandemic and not just completely let us go. I thought that was the right thing to do as a pastor. There were some moral issues with just taking a money from the government when it wasn't needed that I was very upset with churches for not bringing it up. Anything I want to say before I continue?
No, this is good. Nobody talked about it.
Nobody.
After the fact, the thing came out.
Well, that's the thing. Some people went and actually had meetings with the White House, and the White House is saying, no, we believe that you guys are essential workers. We believe that you guys should benefit from this package, the stimulus package, and they did. The problem is, you talk $7.3 million in federal rescue package loans given to churches, right?
That's a lot of money.
religious organizations ranging from nearly 10,000 Catholic churches to hundreds of Jewish groups, all these received 88,411 Paycheck Protection Program loans, right? Loans started in April 3rd. That just blows my mind. And I'm going to tell you why it blows my mind. From what I can gather, almost every church has been financially doing very well.
That's everything I've heard. I've heard it all across the board that
When the government gave the $1,200 stimulus checks to all the citizens, right?
yeah.
A lot of those citizens actually gave a lot of their money to their church. Hey, I got extra money. I bought a new couch,
Right.
but I'm giving the extra $200 to the
So
church.
what ended up happening? Churches ended up not needing the money that they thought they might have needed.
Didn't need the money that we thought they needed.
Yeah.
Right? And in fact, most churches' tithings are doing better than normal.
Yes. Better.
Our tithing's doing better than a summer that we would normally have, what we would normally see, right? Normally in the summer, it goes down a little bit, vacation, all the above. Nobody's going on vacation. So our tithing's up this summer.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I didn't want the thing anyway, because what would be the point of it? We didn't need it at the time. But some of these guys thought they did. Now, daycare's open back up. Churches are opening back up. And people are doing well. So now, not one person's talking about it. Now, Newsweek comes out with an article. I've never seen an article get blown under the rug faster than anything I've ever seen in my life. The 13,000-member Southern Baptist megachurch of First Baptist Church of Dallas, right, received between $2 million and $5 million in April. Willow Creek Community Church, which averages 18,000 attendees in its 7 locations in Chicago, received $5 to $10 million according to the Treasury Department. Right? And I could go on and on. In court records cited by Chicago Tribune found that Willow Creek paid $3.25 million in settled lawsuits alleging a church volunteer sexually abused children. And that was in 2018. Okay? Reuters reported on Tuesday that the Roman Catholic
Diocese.
All right, thank you. Of San Bernardino, California, received between $5 to $10 million despite publicly acknowledging its role in decades of sexual abuse. Joyce Myers, y'all love Joyce Myers, a Missouri megachurch that was the target of a 2007-2011 Senate Finance investigation, was also approved for the $5 to $10 million government loan. I mean, the thing goes on and on and on and on and on.
A whole bunch of people.
City of Destiny
got
received between $150,000 to $350,000 for the PPP. Churches and eventually, I mean, it's just, I've never seen anything like it for my life. All these churches were getting this money, and a lot of the churches were small churches that we know of, right?
Yeah.
Churches that we're affiliated with, getting these money. And the question is, as soon as they got the money, those Zoom calls, well, I stopped going to the Zoom calls, maybe that's why, but as soon as everybody got the money, the topic stopped, right? People stopped talking about it. People stopped talking about how we were going to spend it, what they were going to use it on. So now my question is, what are you going to do with it?
Where's the money?
If you don't need it, what are you going to do with the money? What would be the right thing to do?
The right thing to do would be give it back, right?
Right thing to do?
First thing comes to my mind, especially as a church.
Morally,
setting.
as a church, I think we should set the example for,
Morally,
and all the time. We should set the example when it comes to, relationship.
Everything.
Yeah, we should always set the example. So I think this is the perfect time for us to set the example and
Give
say,
it
because listen, if the church needs it,
Use
if
it.
your church is struggling to pay your salary or the salary of your people
Or bills or anything.
or bills, like I understand that, keep it, right? You need it. But
So that's what it was for.
that's what it was for. That was the intention, the intended purpose of it. But if you don't need to pay for those things because people are tithing very well, I think that you do a disservice to those people
Oh yeah.
who give faithfully.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're doing a disservice to our government. I think you're doing a disservice to our community. I think it's time that we give that money back to the government and say, look, thank you for trying to give that for us. At the time we thought we needed it. Now we don't need it, right? I think it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
And people were very upset. People were like, we don't need to sit there and call each other out. And, this church is going to do what it wants. And we're going to trust that each church makes those decisions based on their church and the needs of their church. And that's all great and dandy. And I was quiet about it, right? I was quiet about it. We did talk, I think we had talked about it in one podcast,
I think we
episode
did.
4,
I think we
but
talked about it,
I was pretty quiet about it. I was all right with people making that decision for their church. They know their needs. I don't know the tithing, but now that we're
through it. We're
we're
done.
through it,
Yeah, we see
right?
back end
We're
of it.
seeing the tithing raise, and nobody's really in dire need financially, because I was all for, there's a football player named Benjamin Watson, I believe his name is. I think he just retired, but he actually was sharing a program called Churches Helping Churches. So if any churches actually were in need, instead of waiting for the stimulus package, churches could sit there and say, hey, I'm in need, and then other churches could help them out. And so I was all for that. I was like, yes, if your church is struggling now, and I'm for this even now, if your church is struggling, contact us, then we can talk about how to help you.
I think they should be doing that anyway.
You should be doing it anyway, yes, right? I mean, but to be able to sit there and say, I'm going to take this loan from the government, which is to help bills and salaries, and then if I can keep the same amount of salaries throughout the year, then it'll be forgiven. If you don't need it, then I don't think you should be using it for anything else.
Well, and for non-believers to see that article that you just read, what are they thinking? Oh, well, why would the church need it? I just saw something on Twitter this past week about a mega church that got a huge amount of money, and people were like, well, why are the churches getting it? Like, why isn't this going to someone else? Why isn't this going to this?
Small businesses.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my mindset, it always goes to the non-believers, the people who aren't in church, people who have like a nasty taste of church in their mind or in their mouth.
And then they see something like that, and it just makes it worse.
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, fuel the fire.
And thank you for saying that, because our communities are hurting. Right, our communities are hurting financially. There are people that are in Kentucky. There are so many unemployed people right now. There's small businesses are closing. There's big businesses are closing. Frisch's is closing a bunch of stores in Kentucky. I saw Dunkin' Donuts is about to close some stores.
800 stores.
Yep.
Yeah,
There's
so
a lot of small businesses.
there's people across the nation, especially in our own community. I'm not even going to say across the nation. There's people in our own community that are financially struggling for this, that, and the other. And for us to sit there and take money from the government and not use it for what its intended purpose.
It's wrong.
Is morally wrong. It's ethically wrong. It goes against everything that we teach on Sunday mornings.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to do better as a church. We have to do better as a church. And the fact that not many people are speaking up about it is also disgusting.
Yeah, that's the worst.
We got to do better as Christians.
Well, I think it shows the church's attitude nowadays too, is how people always say churches are money hungry.
Yeah.
And it goes to show.
Yeah.
They want to hold on to that money. They don't want to go out and do stuff in the community with it or do anything to benefit
and I think
communities.
that may even be something that upsets me even more is some of these churches that got that money are churches that are not active.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There are churches that are
I
not
know
doing
churches,
things in their
exactly.
community. They're not doing outreach. They're not trying to help people in the community. So does that even make it even more better? Like you're getting salaries paid off for no reason because you're not even doing anything in the thing. But
And the money's definitely not going to force them to go out and
Exactly.
Be
If
active in the
anything, I
community.
think it's definitely going to make them, I don't know, use it as like a security blanket.
well, that's the other thing. If you are going to take that loan and keep it, the moral thing is we don't give it back to the government. The other moral thing would be is to
Give it back
give
to
it
the
all
community.
back into the community. But I know that they won't do either or, so I don't know what I just, at some point we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing church for? What are we being a Christian for?
Well, it's time we put
What's
our
the purpose
it's time
of it
we
all?
put our money where our mouth is. Everything we've been saying, it's time we do it. You know, like we're literally being in this world right now. We're literally being tested, and people are looking at the church to see how they reacted to what's going on. So I think if as a church, if we don't act the right way, then we can't expect anybody else to.
Exactly.
Very well said.
Thank you.
Very well said. It just breaks my heart to see the state of our churches. And I've been saying this since March. The churches that are going to survive this spiritually strong and healthy, like the churches that are going to survive this without a problem, are going to be the churches that are going to survive for years to come. The churches that are struggling to get through this virus, the ones that were like shocked that they had to get online and preach online, the ones
We're the
that
ones that were going to close their doors anyway.
Yes, the ones that are struggling and sitting there going, I'm going to keep preaching on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights on video at my house so nobody watches it. But if I get 200 views, that's 200 people watching it. That's not 200 people. I can watch it for 3 seconds, get off of it, show Andrew and Brittany how stupid you look. That's another view. There's 2 views I just gave you. And I'm telling you, more people are making fun of your videos than they are watching it. So that 200, don't get your head so big with 200 views.
Here's the thing, I think with this whole pandemic, that's what pastors are doing. They're like, look at the number, look how many people we're reaching. And I'm just like, what? You could be doing that anyway.
Yeah. I think the number of baptisms, I think the number of membership, I think the number of attendance that you're getting on Sunday morning, I think those are gonna show more of what you're doing as a pastor than anything else.
I was gonna say, attendance to me would just,
And people
that's a number you should be getting.
And people hate talking about numbers, but guess what? Numbers are people.
Yep.
I don't understand this. People get so upset about numbers. Numbers are people, right? If you have one baptism, that's one person that got saved. It's not just one baptism. It's not you shouldn't be upset about it. But you should also try to do more.
Right.
You should always be striving to do more. We're getting ready. We've been here, how many months have we been here? A year and a half? A little bit over a year and a half?
Yeah.
We're getting ready to restart
Be 2
our
years
kids'
in May.
ministry. We've been here for a year and a half. We're getting ready to restart our kids' ministry this Sunday. We're getting ready to just wipe it out, say, all right, we tried it. I don't like it. It's not working. Our kids aren't growing spiritually or in numbers even, right? So we need to fix it.
Well, we recognize that it probably wasn't where it could have been or where it should have been. So
But this is what we're thinking about all the time.
have to be.
Right.
As an active church, it have to be.
If the youth numbers were dwindling, right? If right now you guys had 30, about 30, almost 30 on Wednesday. If that number starts dwindling and it goes down to 10, 5, 10 people, 15, on that Friday, because we meet as a staff on Friday, I would come up to Andrew and Brittany and I would say, what's going on? Why is it
I would
going
expect
down?
I would expect that to happen.
What are we going to do to fix
Yeah.
that? Who do we need to contact? And Andrew and Brittany, because I know how Andrew and Brittany are, they'll already tell me, oh, we already called X amount of people, we already checked on these people, we already are reaching out, we already have this thing planned on next week, because that's how they work. But those are the questions that we have to start asking. We have to stop settling as a church for, just kids don't want to come to church anymore, or youth don't want to come to church, or adults don't want to come to church, or people are scared of the virus. That's not an excuse anymore.
No.
Right? If you're scared of the virus, come to our Sunday night. Our Sunday night's less people and spread out. Or Wednesday night, or whatever the case is. We have to get to a point where we're starting to challenge people, we're starting to challenge our staff, we're starting to challenge our church, challenge Christians to go out and reach people.
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that some of these churches or pastors aren't called to do it,
No.
or they don't want to do it.
They don't wanna
So they're
do it.
just looking for any kind of reason they can justify why they don't have people showing up. Or
Which is
they
why
don't have kids
why
showing
they
up.
share those articles that say, pray for your
Pray for
pastor.
your
You don't
pastor.
understand how hard he's working. It's like, but are you really working hard? You might mentally feel like you're doing terrible, because a lot of pastors feel like they're mentally doing terrible. And sometimes people tell you that. You may be feeling that way because I'm talking right now. But the reality is, we're not supposed to be doing this to impress people. I could care less if people like me or not. Half the churches don't like me, half the pastors don't like me.
I think you say that every Sunday.
Could care less. My job is not to impress other pastors. My job is not to impress Christians even. My job is not even to impress Trinity. My job is to impress God. And when I have that mindset that today I'm not going to work to run a church, I'm going to work to glorify God through this church, changes everything. Changes everything.
And I know some people will look at that and be like, because you say it all the time. You say you're not in it to please people. You're not in it to please Trinity. You say it all the time.
Some people
Great,
get upset
please
by
God.
that.
And
Some
I
people
think,
get really upset by that.
I think so too. But some people will look at that and say, "Oh, that's a good idea. That's cool." But then they won't do it. But you know how easy it is
Well-
to just switch your mentality and switch your life into living for God. Because in the Bible, it even says we should be working for God, not for man, right?
And you're exactly right.
It's an easy thing to do.
Everyone
Switch
wants to,
mindset.
people do this all the time. Abram, will you speak to us about how you're growing the church? Will you share with us? I'll get in with some big guys, and they'll say, we need to be listening to you, Abram, on how you're growing your church, right? How you're revitalizing a church that's been sitting here for 38 years, right? That's been through X amount of preachers, that has gone through, yes, natural disasters, that has gone downhill for many, many years. How in the world did you turn it around? We need to hear from you, Abram. We need to hear from you. But and I always I've told Andrew, bring this too. We'll share with people whatever we're doing. I don't care. We can share with the world all the steps that we're taking to help build up a church, revitalize a church.
Not a secret.
It's not a secret, right? God's first in all of it, one. But number two, I don't care. I'll tell you the steps I took. I'll tell you exactly how we're running things, how we're creating teams, how we're doing outreach. I'll explain those things, the leadership things that we're doing. I can explain it all day. And you know why I have no problem explaining it? Because nobody will do it themselves. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to want to put in that work. No one's going to want to sit there and do it themselves. No one. They won't.
They want the finished product, but
They want the finished product. They don't want the work. Amen. This is the society that we live in. I think it's Sunday night. I'm going to be preaching on the hall. They call it the Hall of Faith in Hebrews 11, the Hall of Faith. And it talks about all these people. By faith, you can do this. By faith, you can do this. By faith, Abraham did this. By faith, you see what I'm saying? They do all these things. By faith, Rahab. They talk about all these people who, by faith, did amazing things. And there's a verse in there where it talks about. I'm going to have to find the verse, y'all. I get to this point, and I need to just find the verse. I'm going to find the verse, Hebrews 11. I want y'all to see this.
Hebrews 11, Hall of Faith.
And if you're coming on Sunday to hear this message, ignore what I'm about to say. Sorry, Andrew Brittanys.
Sunday night or Sunday morning?
My phone, I don't know why I can't
Yeah, I
get
was gonna
this.
say.
Sunday night or Sunday morning? Which one are you talking?
Sunday night.
Sunday night.
Oh, okay. So on Hebrews 11, I don't know if y'all have Bible. I like using Bible Gateway, but that thing's been struggling lately. They've changed their format or something. By faith, talks about all these things. In chapter 11, verse 30.
Oh, you're really.
No, 32. 30. No, let's just start with 34. No, let's start with 33. Talks about all these things, right? What in 32 it says, "What more shall I say?" Right? Names all these people who by faith conquered kingdoms, performed acts of righteousness, obtained promises, shut the mouth of lions. By faith, shut the mouth of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, from weakness were made strong, became mighty in war, put foreign armies to flight. We love that. And we want to have faith so we can do those things too. We want to shut the mouths of lions. And we want to conquer armies by faith. And we want to do all these great things by faith. You know what I'm saying? Right? Women receive back their dead by resurrections. Here's where it gets iffy though. It says others were tortured by faith. Right? Some people by faith were able to conquer lions and all these things. But other people by faith were tortured, not accepting their release so that they might obtain a better resurrection. Others experienced mockings by faith and scourgings, yes, also chains and imprisonment. They were stoned. They were sown in two. They were tempted. They were put to death with the sword. They went about in sheepskin and goatskin, being destitute, afflicted, ill-treated, men of whom the world was not worthy, wandering in deserts and mountains and caves and holes in the ground. And all these, having gained approval through their faith, did not receive what was promised. But God provided them something better. We like having faith when we get to conquer lions, right? Shut the mouth of lions and conquer kingdoms, and you know what I'm saying? We want that. But that's not what faith is.
No.
Right? Sometimes you got to go through the trenches.
Faith is the foundation of Christianity, really. It's what you base Christianity is based upon. Its faith.
And if you're not willing to go through the persecution and the torture and the struggle, then you'll never be able to get those. You'll never be able to get to the point where you get to shut the mouths of lions.
And real quick, in closing, I guess. This past Sunday we had a concert, like we said, and one of Blake Whiteley's songs he shared a story before one song. It was called Turbulence. You should really look it up. Will you sing it for us? It's a really cool song. Turbulence is a really cool song.
Turbulence.
Anyway,
Sounds
before
much
this
better
song,
Hey,
Blake's
don't
giving
be
a quick
a
little.
dick.
Blake's giving a little story on this song, Turbulence, and he
Give him a right
he says the purpose for writing the song, to make a long story short, he
don't
wrote
do it
this
for the money. I do it for the
fame.
No, don't do it for the fame.
Do it for the glory.
Glory. No, not him.
I don't
Don't
know.
do it for the money.
Don't do it
Don't
for
do
the
it for
glory.
the fame.
Don't do it for the glory. Don't do it for the fame. Is what he says.
That's awesome.
Anyway, it's a really cool song. You should look it up, Turbulence. But he says, long story short, he's writing this song he's in an airplane. Him and his buddies or whatever he's on. I don't know where he was going. He said, and they're about 30,000 feet in the air, and they get this big whiff. He said it was a hurricane that actually caused it. Huge amount of turbulence. He said the plane was flying all kinds of sideways, and he said in that moment, everyone on the plane had the most faith in the world. He said in that moment, everyone had, and they were faced with death. Everyone was in prayer. Everyone had, they were just. Yeah,
They put their faith in
put
God.
their faith in God in
only
that moment.
when they were face to face with death, and we see this a lot anytime in
Yeah.
church.
He said he wants to have faith during that time, yes, but he wants to have faith also when his life's good.
He wants
right?
to have that kind of faith,
That kind of faith, yeah,
even when life is good.
yeah. When he wakes up and has a good day, when he's enjoying life, something good happens. He wants to have that same kind of faith, where he's giving God all that praise,
Yes.
and has that kind of faith in God in good or bad times, which I thought was a pretty cool testament.
Great illustration. You should keep it for a sermon.
I should. I write these stuff down in case you didn't know that. I have a whole book of sermon illustrations.
Angel's gonna be preaching for me in September
You never told me the date.
because I need it. I want
You don't have to tell me
it
the date.
submitted by September.
It'll be the
Yeah,
first.
that's what we're
You don't have to tell me the date. Just you said you're gone and stuff. So.
Listen,
goodness.
if
cool
anybody got offended about today's podcast, you can email us at preachingyoung@gmail.com. Andrew handles all those, so be nice to him, but yeah, I care less what you say about me. Number 2, Next week is our big podcast week. We have a big guest, and I'm excited about it, and I hope we can work it out because nobody else seems to care about it, except for me.
Oh, I'm pumped.
It'll still be released on the typical day.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah,
we're
back
back.
to normal schedule.
Normal schedule.
So apologize for that.
For just
once
a
again.
little while until we're going on a camping trip. But I'm excited, and
And then Brittany's gonna have it all by herself.
yes.
kidding.
Actually, we have a special guest on that day too.
Absolutely will.
I'm excited, but this is Preaching Young. My name is Aiden Crozier, pastor here at Trinity Southern Baptist Church.
My name's Andrew Baker.
And I'm Brittany
And you're
Furnash.
listening to Preaching Young. I said, Preaching Young. I said, preaching. I'm so tired and I'm preaching young.
Hey guys, what's up? We thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you have any questions, you can email us at preachingyoung, no caps, no spaces, @gmail.com. Hope to see you next time.